Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another MMO Roundtable meeting. So continuing on with our discussion on travel, we left off with Lee giving his thoughts to Nelson about forcing somebody to, once they've already explored a particular path, having to endure that every single time. Because the very first time, I do agree. It's cool.
Yes.
You're exploring. You're learning.
And everybody loves to do it. It's like, where am I? Okay, I'm going to go explore. But after they've done it once or twice or 3 times,
Or
that's
500.
enough. Yeah, they don't want to do it anymore. It's like going, let them skip out. Let them opt out. Don't force them every single time. But then the other thing is, if you do want them to explore, entice them with other reasons instead of saying, hey, you have to go by foot.
Okay, well, then look at the other things that I was saying, in that having to plan your trips, having to...
Well, let's talk about that. Let's explore it. Now,
And what if you created a system in which the instant travel, even instant travel, was you had instant travel, but instead it was more of a Star Wars Galaxies type system where you had to purchase tickets that cost real money, you had to wait for certain things to become available, you had to create sort of a waypoint system to figure out how to get from point A to point B. It's not going to take 10 years. It might not even take minutes.
In Star Wars Galaxy, if I bought a ticket from one planet to another and I'm going to take a shuttle, I have to plan waypoints and all?
Well, you have to wait for the...
You got to wait for the shuttle, just like in WoW, you have to wait on the blimp to get there.
Just like the airport.
Well, if I wanted to get from one planet to... If I wanted to get to from one city that didn't have a spaceport to another city on a different planet that didn't have a spaceport, I would have to go from that city to a city with a spaceport, then go from that spaceport to the other planet that has a city with a spaceport, and then go from that city to the city that doesn't have a spaceport.
It's going to be
like the real world.
It's going to be the exact same thing in our game.
That's what we would consider the passive system.
Yeah.
Not even in WoW, don't think that every single little outpost in town all have connections to everywhere. Doesn't work like that at all. It is a network, and
I understand that, but what I'm trying to suggest, though, instead of adding time to it, because apparently that idea has been shot down repeatedly by everybody here.
No, stop. I haven't heard any sort of ideas of what could be actively done or could be
No, and
engaging.
I admit that I don't have any either. That's why I kind of asked everyone, and nobody had any ideas. So
I think all of these things, I think we could come up with these things on the active travel when you have your own ship and you're trying to get from one area to an area you've never been to before. You may want to take a look at weather. You may want to, I mean, there's all sorts of things we could cause the person to do.
Flight cancellation.
The mechanic that you're talking about, Nelson, does kind of exist even if you look at WoW, where you do have to plan your trip. You're sitting there, I'm sitting here in Bloodhoof. Okay, well, let's see. I need to get all the way over, let's say, to Scarlet Monastery. Okay, what's going to be the best way? All right, well, let's see. I'll run up to Thunder Bluff. I could grab a flight path over to Crossroads, maybe head over to...
See, now
I think these days you can take the Zeppelin over to
you don't want to
Undercity.
do that, so, okay, let's go to Orgrimmar, get the Zepp over to Undercity. And
Yeah,
then
but the Zepp now leaves from Thunder Bluff. They installed the service.
Yeah, they fixed that.
But see, there's all these different
There
ways
is
you
planning.
do it. You have to think about what's going to be the most efficient way to get there.
okay, and what I'm suggesting is a few different things. First of all, I haven't even mentioned this yet, but it's something that I've been thinking about. Having a waypoint system that you can create waypoints inside the HUD of the game. I mean, that's something.
Inside the HUD of an active travel mode in your ship or something. Because
even when you're trying to...
if you get on a shuttle with a bunch of other people to go from A to B, the pilot doesn't generally let you go and set your
Yeah,
own
exactly. I
waypoints.
don't get to get on the, like, when I'm flying to Vegas, I don't be like, go knock on the door. Hey, I was just thinking, can we swing closer to the Grand Canyon this time?
I got to try that out.
Totally.
That's awesome. It's like, I know you've got a connecting hub in Charlotte. That doesn't work for me. Can we?
Yeah.
I get tased on my way to the cockpit, actually.
Completely wrong.
Okay, Nelson, what are you talking about? So I understand.
I'm talking about a system where you can come up with a plan, where you can say, I'm going to go to this city in this town, and then I'm going to do that, then I'm going to go to this city in this town, and you can map it out graphically. Because maybe that would encourage people to plan more and plan better.
But when you say graphic, map it out graphically, help me out here.
I mean something in game to facilitate a player in determining their location, because that was something, or determining what their plan is, because that was something in Star Wars Galaxies that kind of frustrated me, was that I had to kind of keep all this stuff in my head. But if you provide a way in the game for you to be able to sort of map your own route,
yeah, you pull up a navigation map that you can then use to see, all right, I need to get over to this major city and I'm in this small town. Well, there is a train-like transport system from this small town to this somewhat larger town, which has a
more fine-grained to where you say, okay, then I'm going to go to this shop, this quest, and so on.
But you're going to plug all of that in. You have to get out and
this couldn't be controlled by passive travel.
No. This will be a mix of instant and active.
Oh, sure. You're just saying the ability to, like, if you had a mini map system, to add your own waypoints to it. I think that'd be great.
I think that would be very important for what I'm talking about. And if it was built into the game properly, it could be made to be a bigger part of the game. And I also have the belief
isn't that just a task to do system for you?
Yeah, it's kind of like a note system. It's not really part of the game.
No, kind of, but more specialized, specifically for facilitating a person traveling around the world.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's just notes. Unless it takes over control of your character and moves you through the world, it's just a note system.
Yes, and you could integrate systems for determining where and when and how much certain tickets cost.
Yes, you could do that, and I have no problem with that.
I mean, there's many ways that you can integrate this sort of interface for determining that sort of thing. Again, it's just I really do like the idea.
Yeah, I mean, you could have your terminal come up and you can say, I am here, I want to go there. And it comes up and it says that the next train leaving this town, which is what you need to take, which costs blah, 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 leaves out at this time, getting into this area. I mean, you could have the whole thing map out an itinerary and say, here you go, if you want to follow it. And it auto points waypoints. And then you could say, I really don't want to go through that town because I heard there's a market over here in this other town. All right, so let's rearrange. And it could calculate, figure up, and say, all right, this is what you... But
you buy your tickets 3 days in advance, they're cheaper.
That just makes it a little bit more fun in plotting out how you're going to get around. Not getting around. Well, yes, getting around it's your aid, and I have no problem with that. In fact, to the point that, and this gets back to a discussion that Zach and Lee had a long time ago with one of the skill sets, when we talked about this back in the old MMO pre-tech days, being a person who's able to go out and actually map out areas and stuff.
Cartographer.
Yeah, a cartographer, because basically your computer, you could purchase different types of maps for it. The more maps it had, then of course the more it could automate and plan for you, et cetera, et cetera. Not that in this case, just between cities and towns, you would have to have something, players go out and map out an area. But as a matter of fact, I think we were doing space at the time, and that's why it was much more important.
But the reason I'm suggesting this is I know that it sounds trivial to you, but I do have a point for it, a reason for it, is the instant travel system in Star Wars Galaxies. It could make it made the world feel decently large, but if the tickets cost more, and if the shuttles left in later intervals, and maybe not much later, but later in general, I believe that would make the world feel bigger. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, and same thing takes place in World of Warcraft, where when you show up at a place to catch a Zeppelin, that doesn't mean a Zeppelin's going to be there.
No.
There is actually an add-on that was created that you could put on your system that gave you the departure and arrival times.
Did they have one of those?
Yes, they do.
I wish I had that.
So that you could tell, I
shouldn't be surprised.
I need to hurry up and get over here to the thing because it's going to be leaving in 5 minutes. And it's funny because, or arriving in 5 minutes, excuse me, because even waiting 5 minutes can become annoying. So, but they do space things out.
5
for
minutes
things
is
like
forever in a
Zeppelin.
game.
Yes, it is when you need to go meet up with somebody.
That's the big thing that had me concerned with some of the things you were saying, Nelson, about like adding time to passive travel. Because I mean, some of the a lot of the flight paths and things like that I've taken in WoW and other games with similar examples are around the 3 to 5 minute mark. And when you're trapped and you can't really do much of anything else, that feels like forever in the game.
I know, and that's why I've been trying to solicit ideas of how to make that not. But
moving back to this other thing about adding waypoints, is this something like you're talking about, where you could just take a map and arbitrarily drop down points and then label them with some stuff?
Something more complex than that. Something that's specifically designed for for doing things and something that will give you the interface for establishing these routes.
I need something better than doing things if I'm to visualize what it is you're talking about.
Doing
that
things.
list is doing things.
Hang on. For instance, say you pulled up your graphical display and you said what jobs are currently active, and it says that right now there's a job over in City A by so-and-so, and you're interested in that, so you just basically click it and say plot to this, and it detects where you're at, and it comes up with suggested best modes of travel if you want to use passive travel to get there, perhaps shows the weather, perhaps shows arrival departure times, ticket cost, total cost, if there are any delays because of weather or whatever.
Wow, that sounds like the traveling salesman algorithm from hell.
No, God bless it. That's not difficult.
The point is
this what you're getting at, though, is what I'm asking.
Kind of. I think that if you had a system like that allowed you to create these...
Well, if you just had a system like that, I'd sit there and play with it all day. I'm
Well,
saying
right.
I would, because it'd be cool.
That would be a way to make travel more engaging, and I think that would allow you to increase the time. Now, assuming, I know we haven't discussed this yet, but assuming we are going with the Star Wars Galaxies thing, that would allow us to, raise ticket prices, create dynamics of ticket prices, and increase the time that it takes for shuttles to arrive, because then everybody will have the capacity in-game to plan their travels better. And then as a result of the ticket prices being raised and the shuttles leaving later, the world will feel larger.
What's your idea for later?
I don't know, a shuttle every 10, 20 minutes.
Now, I also got to...
I'm not going to hang on. I'm sorry, Lee. I'm not going to throw a giant smiley or sad face on that right out the door, and here's why. Only because we already rate 5+ minutes at some places within in the game, or booty bay for a ship, etc. Because if you have your own ship to fly somewhere, then all of the passive stuff becomes irrelevant. You could just take the flight yourself. Now, of course, generally, your own ship's going to be much slower than using passive transportation, because now you're flying over all this land and you're truly watching it instead of it being some sort of, being on a greatly sped up thing that's because I got to be careful not to rip time apart again. But I'm just saying that if you had your own ship, you wouldn't have to always rely on transportation if you could fly yourself to City A and skip doing all these other things. But we want people to, getting a ship shouldn't be like, hey, I started the game, here's your ship. Thank you. Obviously. So then that does make planning out travel more important. And at the same time, you may want to do a passive route just so you can take a bio break. I'm just saying.
Now, one of the things that, Nelson, you keep saying is make the world seem larger. Currently, the tests are already pointing at a single zone being roughly 30 times the size of WoW. If some of the other ideas that I've got pan out, I could probably extend that to 200 times the size of WoW. Yeah. How big do we need to make the world feel?
But if you make an instant travel system, that world will feel like...
That is relative. It's not instant travel to every part of the world.
But that's what we're discussing right now. We're discussing how to make a travel system that doesn't piss off people, but still makes the world not feel tiny.
Right. Well, see, the instant travel, though, is supposed to be instant. It's not supposed to make the world seem... small
anything
or large.
You just assume that you can actually graph out world size based on travel speed. So an instant travel should be basically an infinitely small world.
Right, but the whole point of instant travel is to get you to that dungeon so you can raid with your buddies without having to travel. Now, the passive travel, I agree. But even if you were to look at some of the sizes of the world, flight time, let's say we're talking about WoW speed mounts, 310 speed mounts on their flight paths. In a world of ours, going from city to city would literally take hours. We don't want that.
It means we need some sort of commercial transportation we can take that travels at very, very high rates.
Right. But also know that when I said instant travel a second ago, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about the Star Wars Galaxy kind of pseudo instant travel where you purchase a ticket, and then once the shuttle becomes available, at that point it's instant travel.
Sure.
Gotcha. Loading
Just
screen.
same.
You're now there at the dock on the other side.
Even WoW does that when you go from like
Booty Bay
North Rim to
Because basically that's just like passive travel. The only difference is that you're not confined to anything. You can purchase a ticket, go run errands, and be back in time for your
Yeah, it's almost like the travel penalty, which, I'd still say somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes on a loop would be an acceptable wait time. Past that, you're going to start annoying people.
Yeah, I think 20 minutes is about twice as much as I would be willing to take before I threw my hands up and stormed out of the room.
I think the assumption or the thing that I guess that I must clearly be wrong about, but is that by making travel annoying, you encourage people to plan. By making anything annoying, you encourage people to be better. I mean, that's the entire
or
point.
you just annoy people.
Well, exactly. There's a balance, and
or you get into
Glad to
the
hear you
point where
admit
you're
that.
like going, "Oh, my shuttle's not leaving. Okay, I'm going to roll out here real quick. I'm going to kill some stuff until the shuttle shows up." Your wife comes in, starts talking to you, and you're, "Oh, damn it! I missed the freaking shuttle. I got to wait an hour now."
That
would happen.
And tell me that would not happen.
Sure, it would happen, but you could say the same thing about anything. I missed a raid, or I wasn't paying attention, my character got killed, or something. I mean, your wife could screw up your game in so many other different ways that this is hardly.
And she's probably done it every which way she could think of so far.
So.
Well, your little waypoint system, if we ended up with a complex means of passive travel between different places, could definitely be cool.
I don't understand his little waypoint system. He never gave, because I came
That's
up with
true,
an
because
example.
even with what I was saying, he still said
he
close,
said no,
but-
and I drew out something that I thought was a perfectly legitimate use of a quote-unquote waypoint system. He said, no, it's got to be more complex than that. Boom, that was the end of the conversation.
Well, I didn't, and then
I can add more points.
I turned around and gave a much more complex example.
And
you still, well, no, you said close. You said that I was close to
So
it.
blow my mind, Nelson.
Yeah, blow his mind. This is going to be great. Tell him what to draw.
Really don't know. Basically, what you had before, the difference is that the waypoint system would allow you to set waypoints within specific cities, and it would give you the tools for setting those waypoints.
Okay.
And what I mean by that
tools
is,
meaning what? I click and that makes a waypoint. What do you mean by tools?
Click's a tool that's called Waypoint Setter.
Exactly. I put my mouse over this and press enter.
tools such as seeing the current prices and the current schedules of particular shuttles.
I wouldn't
not
say
a
that is
tool,
a
that's
tool. That's
feedback.
just that's feedback.
I mean, and you're the guy who's all into semantics
And
too, so
that's
that's
not even
surprising to me.
That's where you're saying it's not even a tool. You hover over it and it goes, okay, this has the next 6 hours of shuttle time.
A tool would be, if you want to talk about pricing, a tool would be something that I could use to punch in a series of
Something I can
constraints,
use in some way.
and then it goes out using those constraints and comes back and says, here are the best tickets.
Yeah,
at
here's
the
how much
prices.
money I have. Here's how much time I'm willing
And
to
here's
spend.
where I want to go.
And here's where I want
You
to go.
got orbits for your shuttles.
Exactly.
It's like
but-
going, who's going to give me the best price to get me from here to there?
But that's a
on
tool.
this date at this time.
But that's a tool.
That's a tool. So when you say tool, that's what I had in mind.
But if you say, I want to go from here to here, and then it maps everything out, the saying I want to go from here to here itself is the tool. You're getting feedback now from this tool saying, well, this is what the tickets will cost, this is departure times, etc.
And then you'd be able to alter things depending on what you know you need to do as well.
So the trick is, are you looking for orbits or do you want Google Maps?
Well, something in between. Something in between.
Both.
Something in between being suggested things and having the abilities.
and if you look to your left, what do you mean suggested things, man? Is it like a tour guide?
Okay, that was pretty awesome.
Right, but you know what I mean.
These are your POIs for today, point of interest.
I really
To the left.
don't know. That's what I've been trying to get out
well,
of.
let me tell you
The first Burger
problem.
King was established on Alethea. Sorry, go ahead, Nelson.
The problem is in all the MMOs I played, there's no sufficient way because I forget things. I like to map things out.
Sure.
Because I have a horrible memory, and there's no tool in any MMO that I've played that allows you to map out your routes properly. And
Yeah,
to show you.
they have all sorts of add-ons for World of Warcraft that'll let you
I'm
do
sure
that.
they have
Even the quest
add-ons,
tracker's
but
not kind of nice these days.
there's no reason why that shouldn't be in the game, though, because that's kind of what I'm saying. And I think that that is a huge part of travel, is identifying where you're going. And I think that if there is a sufficient travel penalty that, while annoying, isn't enough to make you quit the game, will force people to optimize their routes. And I think that's the only thing that I've been trying to say this whole time.
And we've just been trying to figure out the best way to employ something like that.
Well, not only that, but try to understand precisely what you mean. Okay, force people to optimize their route. Okay, the optimum route from point A to point B is generally a straight line.
Right, but there's
Beyond that, how are we condensing this down?
There's going to be shuttles that only have a limited range, so they're only going to be able to connect to other shuttles in other cities.
Sure, a network. Meaning, like, if this is my entire terrain, I've got a shuttle. I've got shuttle
Just
bays
throw out
here,
the flight plans
here,
in WoW.
here, exactly. And this guy can go here, and maybe I've got some other guy over here. So boom, but only this guy can fly down here, and this guy can go over here, and then maybe it's like that.
Yeah, and if that's the flight paths of WoW, then that's what I mean.
Oh yeah, that's exactly how WoW is.
Yeah.
And you don't get a flight path that you can even fly to until you have discovered it yourself.
Yep.
But for sake of ease, for convenience, because maybe I'm not a planner, but I don't want to take anybody who's not a planner, and I don't want to castigate them and force them to, quit my game. I can come into anybody, like I could go to this guy and say, hey, I need to hop a flight. And he's going to open up a window that looks exactly like this, where I see the whole map and I see every other flight path I've ever unlocked, and I say, I want to go here. And he says, okay, well, that's fine. What you're going to do is it basically charts a quick best path for you, where you go, fly through here, and you fly through here, and you fly through here, and then you go there.
And you make sure you make all your connection flights.
What I'm
You never
suggesting,
loses your baggage.
Hang on, go ahead, Nelson.
simply what I'm suggesting is that that's not going to be continuous flight. That you are going to stop at each individual city.
I'm with him.
Yeah.
So if let's say that shuttle A only goes from here to here.
No, I'm with you.
But what if there was a way to go from here to here, but it was very expensive and the person didn't have enough money to pay for that? Yeah. But it was cheap to go from here to here. So that way, as Nelson was saying, planning, now someone could look at their terminal and go, crap, I'm going to have to take this one, but it's going to result in me having to wait 5 additional minutes because it's going to be one half the price.
Sure.
And here's why. And the reason the reason is that a person who didn't spend the time planning what they're doing, they might need to stop at, and I wish I could point, but I can't with this system. But they may need to stop at the top triangle or that or something.
Okay.
And then they go through. A person who doesn't care about traveling or anything, he's just going to fly all the way through, all the way to the end where you already have that arrow, and then he's going to fly all the way back to that system or something.
But why don't you just say you want to go here in the first place?
That's a bad example because that's in the path.
Basically, what it sounds like you're describing is having to make connecting flights with layovers and having to rush to make your connection, just like in real world, taking a flight anywhere.
And
nowadays.
I'll just say, to me, that sounds annoying. And
Yeah,
to
it's
some
like
people,
going,
it may sound cool.
To me,
I think
hang on. To me, it only sounds cool if once you start getting with frequency of the different shuttles and different prices.
I'll tell you,
I'm just getting more into a real world simulation type thing.
There's only one circumstance I can think of where it might sound cool, even possibly, and that's if you get frequent flyer miles.
Awesome.
Outside of that, I'm not interested. But
then if they got a good restaurant there, maybe. But if I take one flight and I got to stop and I waited 5 minutes for that shuttle, and I fly, and now I got to wait 10 minutes for my next shuttle. And then I got to wait 5 minutes for the third shuttle, and
that's why you plan
10 minutes for the other one. That was with planning. That was the shortest I could get. I would want to drive to Seattle and kill you for ever suggesting that.
Yeah.
But it's not that. You would design the systems to where a situation like that wouldn't happen, to where there might be a 30-second delay between all shuttles, so that if you were making something like that, you would not run into a situation
But a minute ago, you just said you wanted like 20 minutes between
Yeah,
shuttles.
I know. It's like, how
you got to pick one end of that spectrum or the other.
Every single person flying is going to be able to make their connecting shuttle within 30 seconds. How in the hell are you going to pull that off?
the numbers are irrelevant. What I'm trying to say is that you can make it to where if you did plan it, it wouldn't be as annoying. But if you didn't, it would be annoying. And I think that's kind of the point, because then it encourages people to...
No, that forces people. If the options are being annoyed or not being annoyed, people are going to gravitate toward those things that don't annoy them. So what you're going to do is force people to... Hang on, I'm not done talking. You're going to force people to sit down apparently with a pen and a paper or open up some sort of interface and go through a whole bunch of clicking, reading, and plotting to figure out where the hell all these flights are coming in and what time they're going to catch this thing and how long the layer is going to be in this town just to get from point A to point B. I hate you already.
No, see,
hang on.
Zach, I think you messed up. It's not really a choice between being annoyed and not annoyed. It's being a choice between being annoyed or even more annoyed.
Hang on, no. You guys are all failing.
Okay.
Because WoW is only 80 square kilometers. We're talking about something the size of the United States.
Texas, right?
It better be more complicated to get from here all the way to California.
I completely disagree. I think the size means we need to make it a lot easier on people. A whole lot easier.
Because you've got to make 42 connection flights, and the fastest we can get you there, we'll get you there in about 3 months. Sorry.
Not to mention, we're describing travel plans and all this kind of stuff as we would experience them right now in 2011. I hope in a few thousand years we get that shit ironed out a little bit.
But isn't the point of a game running into an obstacle and overcoming it?
No, yeah, sure.
Travel.
I'm trying to ask, what is the point of the game? Is the point of the game to be flying around, or is it to be doing quests and adventuring?
Well, that's a very complicated question, and that even applies to WoW, because the point of the game to different people is completely different. And as I said at the very beginning of these roundtable meetings, that right now we're just discussing life in the virtual world, where how do we bring the world to life? Mm-hmm. And that's why I definitely have no problems with all of this being explored, because we are talking about a large world where we are wanting it to be complex and all.
I mean, I think there's enough planning that could be involved in the act of travel alone, especially if you were having things like weather concerns, how you're going to get, maybe from point A to point B if, this was 2 islands and you can't necessarily swim it, you've got to get something to get you across there. For what it's worth, and this is just my opinion, it might count for nothing and I might get slammed and voted down, and that's great. I think the moment you initiate something like passive travel, where the idea is that I'm letting the computer get me from point A to point B, no matter how it falls, let the computer just deal with that. Let me as a player say, like, hey, I need to get over here, and I'm trusting you to get me there, and let's just go.
Well, what I'd like to see is something that I've proposed and wish WoW did is, and it gives you a choice, like Nelson, or what Nelson would like as a choice, is it gives you 2 optimal paths. Do you want the fastest path, which costs more, or do you want the cheapest path, which takes longer? So
that has been something that has been important to us in times of, being very poor in the game.
Yeah, exactly. So if you've got 2 different choices, you go, okay, well, I've got the money to spare. Get me there as fast as you can. I'm broke. Okay, this is going to take me, 10 minutes longer to get there. Okay, fine, but at least I can afford that.
And, it may end up becoming something where it's like, a subway system where, you've got the red line and you've got the blue line and you got the green line or whatever. And to get where you want to go, you might have to hop on the green train and then wait for the blue train to show up and then take the red train over.
And that's what I was saying a minute ago, where if you want it to do, depending on how much you want it to spend, it could come up with where you could select shorter hops that were cheaper. But now you had to do a little bit of...
Well, I mean, in that case, it almost seems like you just... me personally, I would separate it into almost a sub-mode of travel. Like, they're both passive, but one is, the public terminus system, which, it's just it's your sky bus. It's just, it has its own little routes. You wait in line, you get in the thing, it takes you to this point. You either stay on it all the way to the end, or you get onto another one. Or you actually buy your private shuttle. You pay for the ticket to do that, and that just takes you where you want to go.
Yeah.
So it's like really riding the bus or taking a taxi.
Well, yeah, and even then I still like the idea of the private shuttle won't there's areas that they just won't go. Period.
Well, no,
You've got
it would
to
still be
do
station
active.
based.
Okay.
But the idea is, I mean, fundamentally, it's like the taxi versus the bus, where you don't tell the person on the bus where you want to go. You just get on, you take a seat.
Now, this is something I would like to add in as a note to tie into it, and that's the weather system causing delays.
Yeah.
I just, it just brings the world a little bit more to life. What, Lee?
I'm just thinking of having the shuttle go down in a sandstorm.
Oh, no, it's just
You're
delayed.
stuck in the middle of nowhere. It's like, sorry, you're walking now.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
that would be funny if a kid. Could you imagine even in WoW if you were on a flight path and your damn bird got shot down and you were
Yep.
like, "Where the hell am I? I've never gone here before."
Oh, yeah.
That would be
That
interesting.
Would be very.
I like the idea.
Yeah, put that down as possible transports getting downed. To come back and revisit this later because that's interesting. Very cool. Yeah, kaboom. I can tell you this, Nelson. WoW is really big in getting around when you're not a mage. At least feels that way. Only because everything in it's become so boring as far as what I see now, because I've seen it for so many years. When I started playing the game with my new character, man almighty. It's like, how have you guys managed to play for so long? I even have to do a little bit of planning as a mage if I want to zip quickly to some location where you guys are at. I take a look at, I know where I can port to, and then from where I can teleport to, where would be the most convenient place that I could port to with a flight path that's going to get me the closest that I can get to you, or a Zeppelin, or the boat.
And then if you're a mage engineer, you've also got wormholes.
And you got wormholes that you can rip open and go to certain spots of Northrend.
It's just amazing.
So there is actually a lot of planning in that, and it's pretty funny because I've had like Zach saying, "Hurry and get out here, we're being ganked," and it's like, "All right, let's see, where are you at? Okay, on my way. Hang on."
Well, I think as long as you have a network of connected points that you have to fly through, whether this is an automatic process or whether it's something kind of like the tubes, you know, where you wait for trains or something, there's automatically going to be planning inherent in that. You can't get away from it.
Yeah. And then
because I mean, at some point, because you're probably as a player of the game, you're not going to spend all of your time in these locations. You're probably out here. And so you've already got a plan to figure out what's the closest point I can get to that even has a flight path. And then I got to use him to get somewhere out here so I can cross the damn river so I can get to some point out here. So I've got to fly all the way over to this point, and then I got to hoof it all the way out to there.
Well, not to mention the little side jaunt that you have to do because there's that shop over there that you need to go visit to pick something up before you go out there.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Nelson, I think planning is kind of the nature of the beast. As long as whenever you have, these
I think we can
passive
get that
systems.
worked into this.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a good idea, just for what it's worth, to go into it with the intention of annoying the player to encourage them to use or not use it.
Well, that's fine. I personally did enjoy the way Star Wars Galaxies did it.
Yeah.
You still playing Star Wars Galaxies?
No, I haven't played it for many years, but never. I mean, I'm not going to be playing it because of all the. I can't.
All the stupid choices that they did. That
You said that you-
forced everybody
What's the
to
fact that Sony
play
Online is
a
hosting
certain
right now?
way.
Wait a minute. You said that you love the way they did it?
No, I did. I really did like the way.
But
they did
you
it.
just
I
told
liked-
me a few minutes ago that you bought a ticket and you saw a loading screen and now you're at the other dock.
No, but you had to wait for the shuttlecrafts.
But I
It
don't
was
have a problem with you. Even in WoW, you wait around sometimes.
Yeah, for a Zeppelin or a boat. Or
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. 20
There's
minutes.
never more
might-
than 5 or 10
basically the
minutes.
difference between that, it's not necessarily instant because you still have to wait. You still have to purchase a ticket and wait. It's like passive, but instead you actually just get to sit around and do whatever you do. You could go out and fight monsters, or you could open up your UI and do whatever. You could do whatever you want to do.
Sure.
So it's essentially just like passive. The only difference is that you are still in your character.
Yeah, well, I'm hearing.
It's still passive. It's
Yeah.
just you can explore the surface of whatever conveyance you happen to be on.
Right, and
I don't think it's going to be that bad
No.
at the end of the day.
No, I just
And Nelson, I still, honest to heavens, think we're still going to have the world feeling tremendous in size.
Oh, I think if things are going the way it sounds like they're going, you're not going to have to worry about slowing stuff down to make the world feel big. You're
Yeah.
going to have to start speeding stuff up to keep people from getting bored.
I mean, even in our world today, well, I mean, they retired the Concorde, but I mean, you could get on the Concorde and fly across the
Death
ocean.
trap.
Yeah. But you can fly across the ocean in no time. I mean, it is always they're always trying to get these commercial transportations faster and faster and faster. And the world is huge.
They weren't
that
a
we
death
live in.
trap. They were a money sink.
Phew, yeah.
I want one.
Okay, so is that pretty much everything for now that we want to discuss as far as travel goes?
I think we've handled
I
the
definitely
problem
like
generally.
I definitely like his little computer idea, especially if we were to put tickets or different modes of transportation in place and helping a person analyze what's the best way to get someplace.
There are a couple of the things that, I mean, we could just throw out that I think we could probably take for granted, but it's not a bad idea to write them down. We want some sort of mount system.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that we do just generally want this to be, ground-based and air-based.
Yeah.
If you end up with water mounts,
Then
that's
water-based,
fine,
yeah.
whatever. But I don't even think those would be a major priority, at least at first.
I do think that there must be some sort of instant teleportation, be it a special device that someone has or an Alethian's ability for things like summoning for, it's like always wanting to have a warlock with us so that we can summon people.
Even in some locations, in terms of the story and what's going on, it may make sense to have teleportation to point A to point B. It could happen.
Yeah, so go ahead and put instant in there as well because that is another mode.
Well, it shouldn't be
okay.
too
I was
hard.
just looking down below with so all those mounts basically go under active.
There's just another idea of travel because we never really talked about the
Okay.
idea of mounts.
Yeah, I thought you were just getting over to the idea of just summarizing the whole thing. But
Nah. It's
Okay.
just one more point I wanted to bring up and just make sure we at least touched on.
And I do think where weather delays can affect public transportation or passive, I think it should also affect mounts as well. Which is we can explore how we could go about that later because if there's a massive sandstorm coming through direct point A to B where you're trying to go to complete something, but if you were
You're not going to make it through it.
If running through it slows you down 70%, but at the speed in which that thing's moving, if you looked at your forecast and you saw that if you were to angle to the left of it because it's moving from left to right, that you would barely have to alter your path to catch the backside of it and you'd never slow down. You'd actually have a huge savings.
What would be cool, like if it was an aerial style, like something along the lines of a jet engine derivative.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get into the storm, the thing has to make an emergency landing and basically switches off because it's sucking sand into the engines now.
Absolutely. And even with our commercial
So now you're
stuff,
grounded.
with the commercial flight, same thing can happen. If the system for generating the weather is set off on its own, and there happens to be a commercial airliner that's going from A to B, or let's say A to C, and then
diverts.
and it has to divert and land.
Yeah.
And it might just simply say we're delayed until this system passes. I mean, computer-wise, programming-wise, not a problem. It's once that simulation gets that storm out of the way, it picks back up, and everything's delayed until it's going again. And the cool thing is, again, dynamic world. Now you can get off and decide: do I want to try to find some other way to get there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would really tick off all the people who wrote down the timetable charts. It's okay, here's all the timetables. Oh, they're not right.
Yeah, but you look down at your timetable and it goes delayed. But anyways, all right.
And then every server looks different.
Leonard, do you have any horrible problems with some of these things here?
Not really. I pretty much spoke up on the areas that were bothering me. It's a case of a lot of the time when you're wanting to adventure, you don't want to be spending an hour flying anywhere.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going
Otherwise,
to.
you don't get to play.
Yeah, we're not going to have that. But at the same time, if you were on a flight path going somewhere and your transport was downed, you're now in a very interesting gameplay situation that you have to manage.
Sure.
Yep.
Well, you could even have another tier of travel beyond that if you just really wanted to go this route in terms of your passive travel anyway. Where, you've got your lower stratosphere transport that's going to not only get you from point A to point B, but its whole thing is that it flies over the weather. It just constantly.
Limousine travel.
Yep,
Yeah.
and it's expensive.
Yeah.
Your
Absolutely.
ramjet flyer.
There you
Exactly.
go.
It's like everybody else is canceled, but if you got the money to spend, just hop on one of these babies. They'll get you there.
Okay, awesome. Well, with that, let's go ahead and wrap up our discussion on travel, and we will see you guys in the next MMO Roundtable meeting. Thanks a lot, everyone.